starting off this countdown, we have the Europa stones. In 1938, archaeologist Dr. Chipute led an expedition near the Bayan Har Mountains in China. That's when they came across some interesting caves. These caves held evidence that ancient life once lived in them. After searching the caves, they found weird discs buried under thick layers of dust. These discs resembled phonograph records. Researchers dated them to be over 10,000 years old. Now, they didn't play music like a typical record, but instead they had hieroglyphics carved into them. When studied, it told a story about a spaceship that crashed into the mountains. Aboard the spaceship were people that called themselves the Europa. Then later on, the discs were sent to Moscow for further studying. That's when they were placed on this special turntable, and the discs would vibrate or hum in a weird rhythm, as if an electric charge was passing through them. After that, research on the discs stopped. Or some believe research continued and they found/contacted alien life, which they just didn't tell the public. Either way, this is said to be one of the most mysterious artifacts in the world.
Number 9. Planet 9. James Webb in the picture, we're seeing more of our universe now than ever. For a while now, astronomers have been confident about a 9th planet orbiting the sun. Now this 9th planet is hiding far behind Neptune, so we haven't seen it obviously. We've been here before though, it's hard to tell the scale of these things. The largest asteroid in the solar system was discovered back in 1801, and that day it was initially classified as a planet. But just like Pluto, it was, kicked out of the planet party. Get out of here, you're too small for us. Must be this tall to be a planet. Peace. Talk about this 9th planet began in 2014 when American astronomer Dr. Scott Shepard, he found a small dwarf planet candidate called 2012 VP113. And the orbit of this dwarf planet was too large, it didn't make any sense. Something had to be assisting this colossal spin. For the planet to be acting this way, it would have to be 10 times more massive than our planet here, Earth, and it would take at least 10,000 years to orbit the sun just once. So, Happy New Year, I guess. And considering that it's tucked far behind Neptune, this 9th planet is around 200 times further out than ours. So far, we've covered about 30% of the prime area this planet could be in, and every space fact that I do, I also feel so anxious right after. Holy smokes, space is so scary.
Moving on to number 8, we have the Wedge of Aiud. Back in 1974, construction workers in Romania were working in a village in Aiud when they came across some pretty weird objects. These objects were buried 30 feet in the sand by a river. 2 of the objects were bones from mastodons, which are very distant relatives of an elephant. I mean, that's cool and all, but the thing that really caught their attention was this mysterious wedged-shaped object that was located by the bones. This object contained 89% aluminum, 6% copper, and a total of 12 elements altogether. Here's the thing. Aluminum was discovered around 1825, yet this wedge lay next to bones that are from 11,000 years ago. The timeline just doesn't add up. The wedge itself is theorized to be around 10,000 years old. People believe that this object couldn't have existed way back then. An aeronautical engineer stated that this object looks exactly like a piece of a landing gear for landing aircrafts. This has left researchers to believe that aliens crashed their craft from space maybe 11,000 years ago. In our 7th spot, we have the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone is a piece of a stone slab found in 1799. It has a message carved into it written in 3 different types of scripts. You got ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, Demotic scripts, and ancient Greek. This stone is the key to decipher Egyptian scripts. In 1814, British scientist Thomas Young started studying the stone and made some progress on cracking it. But it wasn't until 1822 to 1824 that the hieroglyphic code was finally cracked. This was done by French linguist Jean-François Champollion. It's hypothesized that the slab was created in Egypt in 196 BC, but we still don't know who created it. Now, this one is more of a conspiracy, but it's actually thought that the Rosetta Stone was made by aliens, and they delivered it to us from space. Obviously, there's no solid evidence to support this. In fact, archaeologist Paul Wasson believes the Rosetta Stone has lessons to teach us about creating a message that will allow us to communicate with aliens. Because we can't just assume that aliens speak English. In our 6th spot, we have the UFO TOOTHWHEEL. This is another artifact that is said to have come from aliens in space. So basically, back in the day, a Russian man was using coal to heat his home when he saw something sticking out of a piece of coal. He reported his findings, and researchers said it looked like a tooth wheel to some device. After tests were run on it, it was discovered that it was composed of 98% aluminum and 2% magnesium. Now remember what I said before? Humans discovered how to first make aluminum in 1825. But the piece of coal this artifact was found in was 300 million years old. So how is that even possible? In fact, the tooth wheel resembles parts that we currently use in microscopes and electronic devices. Again, back in the day, they didn't have any of those devices, so what the heck. Scientists are still running tests on this object to one day figure out who created it and figure out what its original purpose was. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the iron beads. Back in the day, it was found that ancient Egyptians created iron beads. They were carefully hammered into thin sheets, and then they would roll these into tubes. Then they would string them together and make a necklace. While studying them, they found the necklaces were over 5,000 years old. It was also revealed that the beads were made out of pieces from meteorites, and then they would hammer that down. Not only that, but it was revealed that the Egyptians had a more advanced understanding of metalsmithing than we originally thought. Moving on to number 4, we have the valuable meteorite. There's a meteorite out there that is more valuable than gold. It was April 23, 2019, and a weird colorful orb flew across the skies of Costa Rica. It was orange and green in color. This object was about the size of a washing machine. And then, just like that, it broke up into pieces that got scattered between 2 villages. One of the pieces was discovered by a woman named Marcia Campos Munoz. She heard the rumble and saw something crash down on her property. She was one of the few people to find a piece of this meteorite. Now, meteorites show up all the time on Earth, so what's so special about this one? Well, it turns out they belong to a rare class called carbonaceous chondrites. They formed when the solar system was still developing. It's believed that these pieces of meteorites will help us figure out what early solar system life was like. Moving on at number 3, we have the ancient battery. Back in 1936 outside of Baghdad, a weird discovery was made. They discovered a small clay jar with an iron rod hanging in a copper cylinder in it. This was then soldered shut and sealed with asphalt. Upon analyzing it, it was discovered to produce small amounts of electricity. In fact, researchers said it looks like an ancient battery. However, we still don't know who created this and what its purpose was. But many people believe that this was a battery from an alien spacecraft that crashed down on Earth several thousands of years ago. Aliens are said to be very advanced species, so it could be that they figured out batteries and electricity way before humans ever did. Coming in at number 2, we have the alien spacecraft. In 2017, a Hawaiian man with a telescope spotted this weird object leaving the solar system. This object was named Oumuamua, and it's considered the first known interstellar object detected passing through the solar system. Here's the thing. Many people believe that this thing is an alien spacecraft. Let me explain. This thing looks like a space rock, but it's not a comet or asteroid. It's too small and oddly shaped to be an asteroid. The thing is long and shaped like a rocket. No asteroids that we know of are shaped like that. Not only that, but astronomers thought the first space rock to enter our solar system would be a ball of ice and rocks. A comet. But usually there's a cloud of dust and gas surrounding comets, and this object doesn't have that. So then what on earth is it? On top of that, it's said to emit blue colors from it. As a result, rumor has it that it's actually an alien spacecraft. And in our number 1 spot, we have the ATIA stone. In 2013, a weird stone made its way to Earth from space. This stone has managed to leave scientists baffled. They claim it's unlike any other extraterrestrial rock ever found. In 2015, while analyzing the stone, they found it was not part of a meteorite or comet. So they were puzzled as to where it came from. Researcher Jan Kramer said, and I quote, The stone's matrix contains a high amount of very specific carbon compounds, called polyaromatic hydrocarbons, or PAH, a major component of interstellar dust, which existed even before our solar system was formed. Meaning, this stone is super old. Like, it was around before the sun and planets had formed. It's mind-blowing, and they still haven't found out all about it.
So starting off this list strong, in at number 10, let's talk about the 1954 meteorite that fell from space and it actually hit someone. This right here is Anne Elizabeth Fowler Hodges. She became a part of history when she survived being struck by a fragment of a meteorite. I mean, how many people can say that? The Sylacauga meteorite is the first documented extraterrestrial object to have injured a human being. So let me tell you guys what happened. A piece of this meteorite crashed through the roof of a farmhouse located in Alabama, and it bounced off a large wooden console radio, and then it hit Hodges while she was napping on the couch. Imagine like that's how you woke up. You woke up by being hit by a piece of meteorite that came from outer space. This made headline news, and I was looking into what happened to that meteorite because maybe that woman can sell it and become super rich. I'm not exactly sure on how much they sell for, but probably a lot, right? But this meteorite was actually confiscated by the police, who turned it over to the United States Air Force. So yeah, this woman lucked out. I don't know why she wasn't able to keep it.
Number 9. Kepler 1649c. Yeah, it's not all about James Webb today, okay? NASA's Kepler Space Telescope also discovered this one a while back, but while NASA was revisiting old observations in 2018 before, retiring said telescope, they noticed previous computer algorithms misidentified it, and upon second glance, it's indeed an exoplanet. Yep, 300 light years away from Earth. It's a tad larger than our planet, and it receives a good amount of starlight. It receives about 75% of what our own sun gives off. Thing is, Kepler 1649c orbits a red dwarf, meaning solar flare-ups could prevent further life from evolving, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, I don't know. No aliens, please, thanks.
In at number 8, we have a piece of the moon. It's always scarier taking pieces of the moon because you just never know what type of airborne bacteria can live on it. There was actually a lunar meteorite found in northern Africa not too long ago, and just a tiny piece of it sold for more than $600,000. Imagine a piece of the moon just fell into your backyard, making you instantly a millionaire. There hasn't been a long-term human exposure to the lunar environment, but apparently the exposure to lunar dust can actually result in severe health risks from direct exposure or exposure from over time. So saying that, whoever owns a piece of the moon, hopefully they're keeping it well contaminated. Alright, number 7, you guys saw it in the intro of this video, you saw a little clip of it, but let's talk about the 2017, which was not too long ago. Well, I'm talking about the discovery of the Oumuamua, which was the first interstellar object ever detected in our solar system. Oumuamua, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, probably not, but in Hawaiian, it actually translates to first-time visitor from far away. Of course, when this object was made public, millions of people questioned, is it aliens? Others ask, where did it come from, or what does this mean for us? Could this be an invasion on Earth? Well, scientists from Harvard University believe yes. This could actually be signs of alien civilization. When you hear about a bold claim like that, coming from Harvard scientists, it actually makes you wonder. When Oumuamua traveled through our solar system, it actually didn't travel on a normal path. And as you know, as normal objects would travel in, and it's usually due to the sun's gravity, but instead it made its own path. So it makes us think maybe this thing was powered by some sort of thrusters. So it could be plausible that it was a spacecraft. Number 6, we have a satellite that fell to Earth. Have you guys heard the story of the Cosmos 954? Well, me neither. I had to do the research for this one. Well, back on January 24th in 1978, a Soviet satellite malfunctioned, which prevented a safe separation of its onboard nuclear reactor, so pieces of the Cosmos entered Earth, shattering around northern Canada. Now, this is pretty messed up. Luckily, no one was killed by this. Just imagine if like North Korean satellite crashed on American soil. I mean, that might spark World War III. So there's actually a law that everyone has to follow when it comes to space. So under the terms of the 1972 Space Liability Convention, whoever launched an object into outer space is liable for damages caused by that object. So saying that, the Canadian government billed the Soviet Union over $6 million for the cost of the cleanup and also for additional compensation for future unpredicted expenses. But the USSR paid just $3 million. From a failed USSR satellite to something that you would never expect coming from space, or should I say you wouldn't expect someone coming from space, an alien? Well, at number 5, let me introduce you guys to Fearless Felix, who is not an alien. He's just a crazy person.
Jumper away. Speed 725. Showing Felix in a stable.
Is this real life right now? That is absolutely insane. Why? I have been skydiving, but I jumped from like 8 to 10,000 feet. Felix jumped from over 128,000 feet. This guy is absolutely nuts. I think this guy almost reached the moon. Okay, maybe not quite. This guy wasn't inside of Earth and when he jumped, but luckily for him, it was a huge success.
And Felix is back to Earth safely, the new world record holder.
Okay, let me take you guys over to Mongolia, and at number 4. There was this 2-ton object that crashed to the Earth near the Mongolian capital back in 2019. This object was added to the MUFON Witness database, which is actually the UFO Network database. I didn't know there was a UFO database. How many aliens are on it? So people are actually believing this foreign object might be a UFO. The object looks like it has a rocket or a jet engine. It seems like the object came crashing down in a field of cows and no one knows what it is. On Reddit, people believed that it might be a hydrogen tank, and a lot of people think that this picture might actually be fake because one person pointed out, where's the crater that a heavy and large object would create? I mean, that is a pretty valid point. It's time to time travel for a sec. In at number 3, let me take you guys back like 80,000 years ago. I know it's a long time. And let's talk about the Huba meteorite that came crashing down on Earth. It wasn't until 1920 when a farmer found it on his field. Well, this thing weighs 60 tons, and it is known to be the largest known meteorite to be found. Today, it has been turned into a national monument, so now it's a great tourist attraction. Moving into number 2, let's talk about the meteorite that changed the history on Earth, like literally. More specifically, well, let's talk about the massive meteorite that might have been responsible for the extinction of the dinosaurs. If you guys don't believe this theory, what wiped out the dinosaurs, let me know in the comment section below and be as stupid as you guys want. I'll see what you guys type down there. Okay, that asteroid that you guys saw must have been huge if it left no dinosaurs behind. It is believed that the asteroid or comet was about 11 to 81 kilometers long, which is super massive. Finally, number 1, I saved the scariest for last. NASA actually predicts that in 2023, there's going to be an asteroid that is on a collision course with Earth that can do some pretty serious damage. The asteroid is twice the size of Big Ben, and I looked up Big Ben, and Big Ben is massive. And then imagine Big Ben, and then times it by 2, and then adding like fire all around it. That can ruin a whole city. Imagine if that hit like a dense city like New York, or what about if it hit like Shanghai, China? A population of over 24 million people. That can wipe out everyone. My biggest question right now is how accurate is NASA? I'm hoping that they're not too accurate. But then again, if NASA wasn't accurate, I don't know if that would be more scarier.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have space energy. While a team of astronomers was working to map out the universe, which, for a second, imagine that's your job. What a task. Anyway, while they were doing this, they found a very mysterious object that is sending out bursts of energy every 20 minutes. This object is somewhere around 4,000 light years away, but despite this distance, it was sending out energy bursts that were so big that it was one of the largest radio sources in the entire sky. That's no easy feat. These energy bursts were occurring in a cycle where one would happen for 1 minute every 20 minutes before it would disappear for a few hours, and then this whole thing would repeat over again. There is nothing that we know of in this universe right now that would behave like this, so at the moment, while there are of course many hypotheses and theories, this is a mystery waiting to be uncovered.
Number 9. WTF. In 2013, the Catalina Sky Survey at the University of Arizona spotted an object in the night sky, and it seemed to have some weird properties. The object didn't move as though it was solid like rock, but it seemed to possibly be hollow, and it had a density of about 10% that of water, and it seemed to be about 6.5 feet in diameter, large enough to house a person. But this didn't match any of the space junk that space agencies had been tracking for previous years, and adding even more to the confusion, the object seemed to disappear from sight, and it was not seen again until 2 years later when it was officially given the name WT1190F, or WTF for short. Pretty fitting. Video and photos were taken of the object's re-entry into Earth's atmosphere, which was a scientific feat on its own, but the object was never recovered. It is assumed that it burned up from the immense heat of re-entry, but many people believe that it crashed into the ocean and whatever was inside was either captured or lies in wait at the bottom of the sea, like those UFOs NASA admits that they found. Remember those? That was crazy.
In our number 8 spot today, we have a meteorite. On February 28, 2021, reports came pouring in from across the UK of an unusual streak of light that was seen in the sky. These reports were far behind the UK's Fireball Alliance, though, as their cameras had already picked up the signal and they were already in the midst of estimating its landing site. That's right, this streak of light was a meteor, if the title didn't give it away. It's a remnant of our early solar system that has been flying through space at unbelievable speeds until it came down through our atmosphere and ended its long, awesome journey scattered in a bunch of pieces across rural Gloucestershire. Teams were sent out to be responsible for the recovery of the extraterrestrial material, which was found in a family's driveway as well as in a sheep's field nearby. This meteorite is a rare specimen known as primitive carbonaceous chondrite, which is said to contain materials that have been essentially unaltered since the formation of the solar system 4.5 billion years ago. The pieces of this meteorite can give us insights into the building blocks of the planets, and it can potentially give us clues as to how the Earth came to be this wonderful planet that possesses all of the resources necessary to sustain human life. In our number 7 spot today, we have King Tut's meteorite. So I actually learned about this one from Taylor, since he's the little history bee, and it is so interesting. Quite recently, researchers made quite the discovery that actually solved a mystery surrounding a dagger that once belonged to King Tut 3,400 years ago. An analysis of the king's weapon found that it was actually forged out of meteorite just outside of Egypt. That is so cool. This whole artifact and the way it was forged is one of the greatest mysteries in history. It is exceptionally unusual in the fact that it was made out of iron, which is a material that the Egyptians would not begin to smelt for another 500 years. This was just one of the many treasures that was found within his tomb, and one that continues to add to the incredible accomplishments of the ancient Egyptians. In our number 6 spot today, we have TABBY'S star. This star, which has also been referenced as the WTF star, is an F-type main sequence star which is located in the constellation Cygnus about 1,470 light-years away from Earth. This star is of particular importance because of the fact that it shows unusual light shifts, which includes a 22% dimming in brightness. Basically, from our point of view, something continually blocks the star, and it likely isn't a planet because a Jupiter-sized planet would only block about 1% of the star the size of this one, so what could it possibly be? There are a few theories out there surrounding this anomaly, but none are able to fully explain what is happening here. Some believe that it is some sort of uneven ring of dust orbiting the star, and others believe that the star's luminosity fluctuates depending on the efficiency of the heat being transported to its photosphere. These are just 2 of the theories surrounding this star, but there are many more out there, and at this point we just don't know. Hopefully though, the James Webb Telescope, which was launched at the end of last year, will be able to get a more clear picture of what may be happening over there on TABBY'S star. In our number 5 spot today, we have new material. Of course, when meteorites show up to Earth, people are dying to get their hands on them to study them and see what all they contain. We get some pretty incredible deliveries of things that arrive on meteorites, and analysis has been able to identify about 300 minerals in different space debris that comes down to Earth, and 40 of those are ones that have only been found in meteorites. This is all very cool and interesting, but one of the most fascinating is the Allende meteorite. This is one that exploded over Mexico in 1969, and after analyzing samples from it, in 2012 scientists announced the discovery of a material that had never been seen on Earth, and that frankly no one knew was even possible to make. It was called pangite, and it consists of quite a strange variety of elements, including titanium, zirconium, and scandium. In our number 4 spot today, we have CFBD SIR 2149. Ah yes, the rogue planet with the easiest name to remember. This planet really had the scientific community on edge in 2012. This is because most of the planets we are familiar with orbit a star. I mean, look at the one we're most familiar with. We clearly and thankfully do. That's not the case for this guy though. CFBD SIR 2149 seems to just be drifting across space without any sort of star. This planet is also huge. It is thought to be 7 times more massive than Jupiter, and Jupiter is quite a bit more massive than Earth. This isn't necessarily anything that we need to worry about. I mean, we're at home in our solar system with our star, not wandering around the universe or galaxy, so that's good. I mean, let's just hope it stays that way. Astronomers believe that there are likely billions of rogue planets, and that they might even outweigh the amount of planets that have suns. In our number 3 spot today, we have shooting stars. Okay, so we often look to the night sky in an attempt to see a shooting star, and the chances might be pretty good depending on how light polluted the area is. I mean, either that or you're seeing one of the Starlink satellites, but either way, we know that shooting stars aren't really stars at all, and are instead meteors burning up as they move quickly through Earth's atmosphere. But what if I told you that there really are some shooting stars that are actually stars? Hypervelocity stars were discovered by astronomers in 2005, and it is thought that they occur, or form, when a binary star system, or a star system that has 2 stars, gets destroyed by a black hole. One of the stars in the system will usually fall into the black hole, which just may send the other one flying across through space as fast as millions of miles per hour. It's definitely not the same thing that we think of when we think of shooting stars, but it is quite the galactic event. In our number 2 spot today, we have quasars. If you aren't exactly familiar with them, they are super compact objects that kind of have a star-like appearance, as they are very luminous, and it is thought that these guys are powered by supermassive black holes. So there's obviously quite a few interesting things about these, but one of the most interesting is in relation to one in particular called APM 082795255. This one contains a black hole that is surrounded by a vapor cloud, and within the cloud is 140 trillion times the amount of water on the Earth. It's the largest water reservoir ever discovered. That's insane. Researchers believe that this giant watery cloud formed long ago, just 1.6 billion years after the universe itself. In our number 1 spot today, we have stardust. Just a few years ago, researchers in Australia made a startling discovery. Ancient grains that were discovered inside of a meteorite that had landed inside of the country were studied, and it was revealed that they were actually grains of stardust. This dust was formed somewhere from 5 to 7 billion years ago, and it is now the oldest solid material ever found on Earth. These kinds of pre-solar grains are a very rare find. In fact, they're so rare that they're only found in about 5% of meteorites that have fallen to Earth. This is a fascinating discovery because having something like this really is the next best thing aside from having the actual star itself, and it gives insight into our universe billions and billions of years ago.
Number 10. Spaceballs. Over the course of decades, humans have begun to clog up the Earth's surrounding area with space junk. Defunct projects, satellites, broken or discarded pieces of spacecrafts. It will become a serious problem at some point, and it's beginning to show. There have been many instances now of strange metallic balls crashing into the ground and being found in multiple countries: Mexico, Spain, Vietnam, Namibia, Australia, and many others. They hurtle towards the Earth, and some have crashed a little too close for comfort. Most of these mysterious objects seem to just be auxiliary fuel tanks from satellites that were discarded or crashed nearby, and they fell off early, landing in a completely different place than was planned. But some of these, like the one in Mexico, still require more investigation, as they don't match any of the parts that we would have expected to be entering our atmosphere. This one even has an antenna, and reportedly fell from the sky while making strange noises, but was not accompanied by any fire, like a lot of debris entering the atmosphere would have. So where did these things come from then?
In our number 9 spot today, we have 2022 AE1. Just a few months ago in January, as the year began, scientists were watching an asteroid dubbed 2022 AE1 that became the riskiest one observed in over a decade. The initial observations of this asteroid placed it impacting with Earth on roughly July 4th, 2023, which would mean that there would not be enough time to deflect it, and this asteroid was large enough to do some real damage should it strike an area. Yeah, it was most definitely a cause for concern. There was a week where the moon outshone this asteroid, and so experts weren't able to see it and continued tracking its path, but once the moon was out of this phase, the risk seemed to have diminished. As of now, this asteroid has been taken off of the risk list, but who knows? It seems as though things can change quite quickly and unexpectedly outside the cozy home and protection of our atmosphere.
Number 8. Struck by a space rock. Alright, we've got 2 stories here, and you can either think of them as the result of a curse, or karma, or cosmic coincidence, but either way, these 2 women had a bad day. In 2001, Lottie Williams was exercising in a park in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when she looked up and saw a great ball of fire in the air. It was a rocket coming back towards Earth. She watched it approach, and as it got larger in the sky, she expressed her worry to her friends, but then it broke up into pieces and it was no longer visible to her. A few moments later, she felt what she described as a tap on her shoulder, and then something fell to the ground. This small blackened piece of metal had fallen from the rocket and just grazed her, and it could have been a lot worse, but she walked away being the first person to be hit by man-made space debris. But another woman was not as lucky. On November 30th, 1954, Ann Hodges was napping in her Alabama home when a piece of meteorite crashed through her roof and struck her in the side. It left a 3-foot wide hole in her roof and also left a massive bruise on her thigh and hand where she was hit. Luckily, the damages were only surface level, and though she went to the hospital the next night, it was because of her stress, not the injury. But if the space rock had been a few inches to the side, Ann would not have lived to tell the tale as the first person to be struck by a meteorite. I'm not sure if she's cursed with extremely bad luck or has really good luck. I'll leave that up to you. Number 7. Skylab. Launched by NASA as the first American space station, Skylab was cursed with issues from the moment it launched. The station strapped to a Saturn V rocket sustained severe damage during its deployment, including the loss of the station's micrometeoroid shield and one of its main solar panels, requiring it to have the first ever repair to an object in space, which is pretty cool. But it was again hit with problems when one of the pieces destabilized from orbit earlier than expected and crashed back to Earth. But it doesn't stop there. Due to increased solar activity, Skylab actually ended up falling towards Earth a year earlier than it was supposed to. There was supposed to be a shuttle mission to boost it back into orbit, but the shuttle wasn't ready in time. In an international media frenzy, the Skylab crash was everywhere. People had shirts with targets, contests were made to bring pieces of the wreckage for cash prizes, and people waited for the show. Due to a 4% calculation error on re-entry, the station did not burn up as quickly as expected, and pieces fell into Australia only 300 miles from Perth in an almost completely unpopulated area. Man, talk about a crash and burn. These scientists missed the mark so many times it's impressive the thing even hit Earth. Number 6. 300 million year old machine part. In 2013, a Russian man named Dmitry was adding coal to a fire when he noticed something strange. A shiny piece of metal was sticking out of the rock, and when he broke open the piece of coal, he found what seemed to be a piece of a metal bar with teeth, like a piece of a gear. When analyzed, it was found to be made of aluminum with about 3% magnesium, an alloy that is not generally produced today. Not only that, but further examination shows machining marks, implying that it's a man-made piece, and it's similar to those that we may find in a modern microscope or other small machinery. But no one can explain how a seemingly man-made part appears in a piece of coal that was 300 million years old. So was this thing a remnant of a past unknown civilization? Maybe something from a time traveler or alien? One explanation is that it could have fallen to Earth from a meteorite all that time ago, but it wouldn't explain the fact that it seems man-made. This little hunk of metal continues to baffle scientists today. Number 5. Nuclear nuisance. The Cosmos 954 reconnaissance satellite launched by the Soviet Union in 1977 had some major issues. The launch went fine. Unlike Skylab, its deployment also went off without a hitch, and this long-term orbital satellite seemed like another mission success for the Soviet space program. It was meant to be circling the globe for years and years, but just 3 months later, the North American Aerospace Defense Command noticed the satellite making erratic maneuvers, changing the altitude of its orbit by up to 50 miles. and in secret meetings, the Soviet officials warned their US counterparts that they had lost control over the vehicle, and the system, which was intended to propel the spent nuclear reactor core into a safe disposal orbit, had failed, and just 4 months after its launch, it fell towards the Earth, right over Canada's Northwest Territories. The Soviets claimed that it had completely disintegrated upon re-entry, but that was not the case, as we discovered a 600-kilometer path of debris leading through the country, and a huge portion of it was radioactive because they failed to launch the reactor out. We Canadians began Operation Morning Light, a recovery effort that lasted over a year and for which we billed the Soviet Union $6 million, though they only ever paid us $3 million. Many small pieces of debris were collected, as well as 12 large portions of the satellite, only 2 of which were not radioactive. Number 4. Proof of panspermia. The theory of panspermia is that life did not naturally begin on Earth, but that it began with microbes stuck in space ice that fell to Earth on meteorites, and the amount of debate around this topic is huge, and we have a few examples that may just prove the theory. The Polonnaruwa meteorite was one that fell in Sri Lanka in 2012, and meteorites are always a good find, but this one was different. 12 days after it was witnessed falling through the sky, a scientist published a paper stating that after studying some electron micrographs, his team discovered fossilized diatoms, microscopic phytoplankton, inside the meteorite. In addition, his team of scientists reported in a separate article that they are certain that it is a meteorite that originated from a comet that also contained living diatoms. The microbes were remarkably similar to those found on Earth, leading to a debate on whether it was simply contaminated from the Earth's surface. But there is another example with even stronger proof of microscopic alien life. In 2018, a meteorite landed on a frozen lake in Michigan, and when it was examined, thousands of organic compounds that were formed billions of years ago were found. It helped that the quick recovery, along with the cold temperature, kept the water inside frozen for studying. Research is still being done, but this find has thrown the scientific world for a loop. Hopefully the organisms don't leave us with some alien curse or disease. Number 3. The Chelyabinsk meteor. Many of us will remember the 2013 meteor that rocked the world. At 20 meters in diameter, it was the largest natural object to enter our atmosphere since the Tunguska event, which destroyed a wide, remote, forested, and very sparsely populated area of Serbia. The Chelyabinsk meteor also is the only meteor confirmed to have resulted in many injuries, though they were all from indirect causes. There are many videos of the event and they are truly terrifying, especially when you learn that the meteor was completely undetected until it entered our atmosphere, which caused worldwide panic. The flash as it began to burn up was brighter than the sun, and when it exploded midair, the energy output was equivalent to the atomic weapon used on Hiroshima, sending out a massive shockwave that damaged buildings and was felt and heard for hundreds of miles. All of the 1,500 people injured were hurt while running or from broken glass or other indirect factors of the meteor. There was even another meteor which was detected to have a close approach on the same day, which was 10 meters larger and flew by us only 16 hours later. Man, February 15th, 2013 was a busy day for meteors. Number 2. Oumuamua. Discovered by the University of Hawaii's Pan-STARRS-1 telescope in 2017, Oumuamua is the first known interstellar object to visit our solar system. It was originally classified as a comet, but there were no signs of cometary activity after we witnessed it slingshot past the sun at a blistering speed of 196,000 miles per hour, or 87.3 kilometers per second. It was briefly classified as an asteroid until new measurements found it was accelerating slightly, which is very strange for any interstellar body. This massive cigar-shaped object is nearly a quarter-mile long, or 400 meters, and its elongated shape is unlike anything we've witnessed in our solar system. Observation has shown that it may have come from the star system of Vega, though with the speed it was moving, it would have taken over 300 million years to make the journey to our solar system, and Vega was nowhere near that position at that time, leading to further questions. Many scientists believe that this could actually be an alien superstructure, as its strange journey and acceleration are studied more and more. Paul Kotis, manager of the Center for Near-Earth Object Studies at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, said that it's a strange visitor from a faraway star system, shaped like nothing we've ever seen in our own solar system neighborhood. Whether it's just an interstellar asteroid or someone coming to see what's up with Earth, we may never know, as it's being launched away from us after making a slingshot maneuver around our sun, the angle and trajectory of which some use as proof as the object being controlled or even driven by something. And finally, we reach our number 1, the Hypatia Stone. The Hypatia Stone is one of the single greatest astronomical discoveries that we have ever made. Found in the Sahara Desert by Ali A. Barakat, this is no ordinary meteorite, but one that contains the remnants of a rare type of supernova. Some have even described it as a supernova in a bottle. named after the ancient mathematician and astronomer Hypatia, who was the first female scholar in her field to have her life and accomplishments recorded, overcoming sexism in the process. Scientists are still learning more about its origins. It's believed that the stone was born in what is known as a Type 1a supernova, a rare kind of supernova where a dying star or white dwarf begins to leech energy off of a nearby star and regains energy in the process. These so-called vampire stars circle each other until the white dwarf has recovered enough energy to reignite the stellar reactions and explodes in a massive cloud of dust and pure energy, shooting things imbued with strange elements out into the ether. Measuring the metals found inside the stone is how we verified that it came from this kind of supernova, and that it crashed to Earth nearly 28 million years ago after being launched through space by the explosion. Having a supernova in our hands has helped us answer so many questions about the physics of space, but if you ask me, if there was one interstellar item that could have an alien curse, it's the rock that contains pieces of a rare supernova. Sounds like something an alien from Doctor Who would need to power their death machine or something.
Kicking off the list at number 10, WASP 96b. Okay, we have to talk about some James Webb goodness in this list, of course. NASA just released a handful of photos from its $10 billion project. This telescope launched last Christmas and the gifts have finally arrived. And I'm terrified. We are so small in the universe. What is going on? In the cluster of photos, we see a giant exoplanet called WASP 96. And no, it is not full of wasps. I mean, I hope not, who's to say? But it could hold secrets behind human existence. WASP 96 is a gas planet half the size of Jupiter, 1,150 years away from us. It orbits its star every 3 to 5 days, so I hope you love New Year's parties because you're gonna have a lot of them. Thanks to our boy James Webb up there in space, we can now see that there's lots of water surrounding this planet. Clouds and haze, says NASA. That's good. I'm excited for more water to be found in the universe, but I'm also nervous because, more water means more fish and, also up aliens.
Moving into number 9, we have the Roswell UFO incident that took place in 1947. Take a look at this. This came crashing down to Earth, and if you search this into Google, you can find these images as well. Clearly looks like an alien, and also you can see more UFO pictures. Can this really be a UFO crash site? Well, there are obviously many conspiracy theories around this crash, because the US military stated that it is a United States Army Air Force balloon crash, while others say that this might be one huge cover-up and it's actually an alien spacecraft. What do you guys believe? I'm going with it might be an alien spacecraft.
Number 8, Ross 128b. I love the names for all these exoplanets. It's just like Jake 21a. You're like, okay, potentially habitable. So much monster energy. Back in 2017, this exoplanet was discovered by Xavier Bonfils at the Institute of Planetology and Astrophysics of Grenoble. Now this one is 11 light years away from us. It's pretty close. And it only takes 10 days to complete a trip around its M-type star. The star is redder, cooler, and dimmer, so perhaps this planet could one day host life. Or maybe it one day already did. Who's to say? Either way. Don't want it. Don't want any part of these aliens. Number 7, Ice Moon. We're looking billions of years into the past, we're searching cosmic clouds light years away, but what about our own galaxy? What about our own solar system? What about our own moon? Could there one day be life on our moon? Back in 2018, NASA confirmed that there is surface ice on the moon's north and south pole. This was huge. NASA mineralogy mapper instruments picked up ice traces near the darkest and coldest craters of the rock. There are 3 specific signatures that prove that there is 100% water ice on the surface of moon. Yeah, and we're talking about aliens whipping out of our oceans. Like, what's going on here? Something's afoot. Number 6, Levelin Flaming Thing. Nice, that's a good title. Imagine opening the newspaper back in 1957 and on the front cover you read, Levelin Flaming Thing brings world knocking at city's door. That's alarming, that's a pretty crazy one. What does that even mean, right? Back in 1957 in Levelin, Texas, multiple eyewitness reports began to flood in about an egg-shaped object or this circular flash of light, something egg-like, jetting across Levelin's hornet and some sort of unidentified flying object. A UFO. Or a UAP, sorry, we don't say UFOs anymore, now it's a UAP. There weren't a ton of details released about what exactly happened during this encounter because there weren't any details to provide, but the Raytheon Advanced Targeting Forward Locking Infrared, or at Fleur, if you're out of breath like me. They were able to capture an extremely fast-moving white oval that was around 45 feet long. The oval had no wings and didn't appear to have any kind of exhaust either. They were tracking a UFO at the altitude of 25,000 feet just above the Atlantic Ocean. And then they were shocked because the craft rotated on its side and then just flew away. There was no explanation released with the footage because it truly is unbelievable and no one can figure it out yet. If you have any ideas, sound off below. All these mystery eggs floating in and out of our towns. Number 4, Europa life. One of Jupiter's moons, called Europa, has a red tinge around it, and in 2001, NASA scientists revealed that it's possible that alien microbes may be responsible for said red tinge. The surface of its moon is mostly icy, but it has been shown that it reflects infrared radiation in a bizarre way. This means that something is binding it together, but researchers haven't been able to come up with the correct combination of elements and compounds to make this data make any sense. Know what I mean? There's some bacteria on Earth that can thrive in extreme conditions, some fish that have never seen light ever and they're glowy somehow. The surface temperature might be too cold for them to survive, but the warmer interior might be where they're all located. Some geological activity on the moon could then push them closer to the surface, where they then flash frozen in place. What a horrible way to go. Number 3, Venus cloud. Back in September 2020, astrobiologists everywhere were excited but also skeptical at some new potential evidence that had been found in the upper clouds of Venus. You probably heard about this, right? Firstly, can we just take a second to really think about how cool of a job it is to be an astrobiologist? To just be like, yep, aliens, let's do it. And then they plan a mission and then take off. Anyways, phosphine is very rare, and usually it's poisonous gas here on Earth that is basically always met with the presence of living organisms, right? So we find this gas, it's bad, but always connects with life. Venus hasn't really been at the top of the list for choices for finding potential life due to its surface temperature, of course, and pressure to the, sulfuric acids in the clouds, and it's horrible and you can never live there ever. But this new evidence could prove to say something otherwise. 2 separate telescopes were able to pick up the signatures of phosphine in a cloud that had a similar temperature and pressure to Earth, and while this isn't concrete evidence of, space beings or bugs or anything like that, it'll at least be a reminder that we should be continuing to look for life or clues around life, you know what I mean? Even in the most unlikely places, like Venus clouds. Maybe it's space bugs also, who knows? That'd be gross. Space moths that live in clouds of phosphine. That would suck. Number 2. Astronaut sightings. We could sit on Earth all day and talk about the potential for said alien life, but who would know more than the people who have actually been to space, right? I mean, who am I? I'm just the guy who makes YouTube videos. Ask the people who have been out there, which are of course astronauts. Ask Astronauts. That'd be a cool website. Ask Astronauts. It probably is a website, actually. Definitely on the list of the coolest and scariest jobs in the entire world. There haven't been a ton of people who have had the, privilege of experiencing space firsthand, but there are even less of them who have claimed to see something that could potentially prove alien existence. People who have claimed these sorts of things include Edgar Mitchell, Catherine Coleman, and Dr. Brian O'Leary. The very interesting part about many of these claims is that they will also include some sort of government cover-up as well with their claim. So it's always pretty juicy. There was also Buzz Aldrin, who spoke about his Apollo 11 experience, and he detailed the crew seeing something flying alongside them, but at first they believed it was the final stage of a detached rocket. But then Mission Control confirmed that that rocket was actually 6,000 miles away from them at the time, so there was no answers on what said flying object could have been. But they noticed it, as would you in a spaceship looking out of a window. And finally, number 1, moon life. Titan is one of Saturn's many moons. Saturn has 82 moons, so if there's any aliens hiding near Saturn, we're never gonna find them. They have many places to hide. A lot of nooks and crannies to hide behind. A lot of moons to hide behind. That's a lot of moons, and around 10 years ago, NASA's Cassini spacecraft detected water under its massive shell of ice, which is really exciting. Again, like I said with our own moon, even traces of water is amazing, let alone this much. To quote a Cassini team member, the search for water is an important goal in solar system exploration, and now we've spotted another place where it is abundant. NASA has also detected low-frequency radio waves on the icy moon, and it sounds pretty eerie. So we have radio waves and we have water. Sounds like aliens to me, my friends. As far as space mysteries go, anywhere that has water or signs of water, fish. Some sort of alien fish is hiding in there. Look at our own planet. Look at an octopus. An octopus changes colors while it dreams. Alien. Number 10, NASA's flying frog. We'll kick this list off with one of my favorite photos from history ever. On September 13th, 2011, NASA's Leidy spacecraft lifted off from Wallop's flight facility in Virginia. Now, to witness a spacecraft take off and go to space, it's amazing, right? People travel across the country to hopefully catch a glimpse of this experience, right? Now, one frame of this specific launch, one photo here, shows an airborne frog. Just flying, he's spread eagle, just in the air, no idea how he got there. The team behind the launch confirms that this photo is real. Can you imagine what's going through his mind right now during this photo? In fact, what was he doing 5 seconds before this launch was ignited? Just sitting on a throttle booster, eating a fly. He's like, man, what can go wrong? Life, you know? If you ever have the chance to check out a NASA launch, keep your head up. It might rain frogs depending where you are.
In our ninth spot, we have the alien. And guys, here's just your little friendly reminder to hit that thumbs up button. In 2017, a man in Cusco made a pretty terrifying discovery in the southern desert of Peru. The artifact he found looks exactly like a tiny mummified alien head. An X-ray concluded that the skull had very alien-type features. The skull had angled eyelids with shallow eye sockets, 2 nostrils, and a narrow slit-type mouth. Now, whoever was in possession of the skull actually covered it in a type of clay, so that's what you see on the top of it, which makes it appear to look more like an alien. Researchers discovered that it is indeed a real skull, but they don't know what it belonged to. So it may just be that this skull belonged to a real-life alien from space.
Number 8. Bermuda Triangle of Space. Awesome, we love these. If you thought the Bermuda Triangle here on Earth was jarring, buckle up. Turns out they got one in space as well. Awesome, great. I feel the space anxiety in my chest today. A handful of astronauts have experienced this in real life while orbiting our planet. They call it the South Atlantic Anomaly, and it's part of the Earth's magnetic field, and many scientists have connected this triangle to the Van Allen radiation belts. So right above the South Atlantic, when the International Space Station passes through this area, computers often stop working, and astronauts will sometimes experience cosmic flashes in their eyes. That's terrifying. The Hubble has also glitched out when trying to take observations, so what's going on here in this weird triangle? Who knows? Maybe it's the Illuminati that Kanye's talking about. Number 7. Elst Pizarro. This next one is quite bizarro. First discovered in 1979, its orbit in the asteroid belt led to it being classified initially as an asteroid. Yet when it was examined more closely in 1996, it showed itself to have a tail like a comet. We love an evolving space rock, I guess. Keep changing, keep confusing us, sure. One possibility, maybe there was a collision at some point and that crash ended up exposing some subsurface ice on the body, which is slowly now being lost to space. So now it's whipping by, which explains the new tail. Elst Pizarro was an asteroid and then a comet, and then once its layers have melted off, now it could be just a plain old boring asteroid. Again, we're not too sure here. Elst Pizarro got the zoomies for a hot minute, but we're not sure why. Experts had hoped to launch the Castalia spacecraft in 2028 to get a better look, but since 2016 the European Space Agency hasn't had any funding to give this project the green light, so we'll never know probably. Awesome. What's Elon doing? Can we send him up? Take a look. Number 6. Scotland Fireball. Once believed to be space junk belonging to Elon Musk, this fireball seen crashing down over Scotland and Northern Ireland has experts scratching their heads. The fireball was visible for 20 seconds around 10 p.m. on September 14th. Reminder, this was only a couple of months ago, so you might remember it. There were around 1,200 reports on the ball, including 10 videos. The UK Meteor Network wrote on Twitter the next day stating, quote, "We have checked the Starlink deorbit and it would have not have come anywhere near the UK. At this point we cannot find any known space junk or satellite deorbit that could account for this fireball. We are looking at the data again." End quote. This lasted 20 seconds, where a meteor would be much shorter. Any theories as to what this was? I know a lot of our viewers live around this area, so comment down below if you witnessed Optimus Prime's arrival 2 months ago. Number 5. Michigan Lights. If you're a fan of the series Unsolved Mysteries over on Netflix, this next one here should ring a familiar bell. March 8th, 1994, more than 300 911 calls were made, all of which were reporting strange lights in the night sky right along the eastern shore of Lake Michigan. That is way too close to our home right now. That's terrifying. I was born in 1994 as well, so who knows? Maybe I was dropped off by aliens. These objects, these UFOs in question, were described as round like discs, or they were like floating spheres. Both jarring descriptions. They all had different colored lights as well, so planes are obviously out of the question. It's been so long now that the case has finally found its way to Netflix, so no, it is still not solved. Number 4. Steve. Nice. An unexplainable light in the sky named Steve. This sounds Canadian already. Back in 2018, this mystery came to light. There's a light in the sky in Canada, and scientists still have no idea what it is. All they know is that they call it Steve. Steve is short for Strong Thermal Emission Velocity Enhancement. Now, Steve's appearance, I can't lie, he is beautiful. He's gorgeous to look at. Steve looks like a white purplish ribbon that stretches throughout the sky, almost like the Northern Lights, only scientists are sure that Steve is not an aurora. It's very hot and it doesn't last long. Classic Steve, doesn't last long, eh? Must be Canadian. Number 3, Hodges meteorite. Now these meteorites, they can happen pretty often, but luckily most of the time it doesn't wipe out everybody and everything. That's pretty good. Sorry dinosaurs, thanks for taking one for the team for us. Back in 1954, residents in Talladega County, Alabama, noticed a ball of fire heading towards them. Now, we didn't have Twitter, we couldn't warn people that maybe a meteor was about to hit and wipe us out forever, and we also didn't really know how to tell if meteorites were coming and how scary it was, so it was alarming. Especially for Anne Elizabeth Hodges, who got hit by that said space rock. Yeah, that ball of fire that we always see going through the sky, that hit her. It grazed her hip. Now you may be asking, was she outside stargazing at this point? Was she doing some cosmic ritual? No, she was napping in her living room, and then an 8-pound chunk of meteorite smashed through her roof and again, only grazed her hip. She got grazed by a meteorite and then received a bruise. First human to ever get hit by a meteorite and probably the last. What a flex that is. Imagine putting that on Tinder. Number 2, go fast. Okay, a bit more modern now. This one was trending recently, but it was originally recorded back in 2015. It was part of that big alien leak that we got to witness over the pandemic. That was fun. That was just what we needed. Middle of a pandemic, the news is like, hey, check out these UFOs also. We don't know. Good luck. Now what you're seeing here is an FA-18 Super Hornet following a UAP. Now we don't call them UFOs anymore because that's so M. Night Shyamalan, alright? We don't do that. We call them UAPs. Also sounds a little smarter. US Navy personnel caught this UAP flying along the East Coast, and there was no exhaust, there was no wings, just a really fast sphere, almost like I mentioned earlier. A 45-foot long egg, 25,000 feet above the Atlantic, just whipping, and it flew away, and nobody saw it ever since. Do we think UFOs are balls like spheres? I think that's the new thing. We went from discs to spheres. Finally, number 1, Uranus tilts. Jokes aside, and you best believe I had about 20 ready, we're still trying to figure out why Uranus rotates on its side, when every other planet has their axis pointing upwards, right? Uranus's tilt is 98 degrees, so there's long periods of time, like 40 years long, where the north or south pole will just face the sun directly. It'll just grill the sun for 40 years straight. Perfect place to get your tan on. The other pole, not so much. You're gonna be pale for 40 years, like my dad. Other planets in our solar system, they have a prograde rotation. Now Venus, that has a retrograde rotation. But why? What's going on here? So far, our leading theory is that something massive may have hit these planets many, many moons ago, early in their planet life. Scientists believe that Uranus was hit by a meteor and completely threw it off course. Gotta be careful. Gotta watch Uranus, alright? Hit that thumbs up for Uranus.